Well, good evening and good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. It's sort of early evening where I am, or it's late afternoon, I suppose. And welcome to another streaming episode of Reading with Vobes, or Listen with Vobes as it's actually called. And we're reading The Charm of the Road. We're at we're at chapter 7, part 2. We haven't done this for a while, so apologies for the delay in getting this done. And if you are joining us for the first time, welcome along. This is a sort of ad hoc occasional reading session where we take an interesting book from the old times, especially a travelling one, and then have a little read through. Now, where we left off our little hero who was travelling along, I've got my hat on, I've got my jacket on. We simulate the fact that we're on the car with this chap and his wife. This is James John Hissey, who is the author who's written this travelogue, and we pretend that we're travelling with him and in the back seat, as it were, watching where he goes, witnessing it as he has written his little travelogue. And he starts off in Aldermaston, which I believe is in... Is it Surrey, or is it... where is it now? Hang on a minute. Where are we? Let's have a look in the side panel. I can't forget. It's Berkshire, that's right. Berkshire, it says here. So I've got the maps, as ever. We've got the Google Maps here. So we've got a little bit of that, Aldermaston there. And we've also got our geo-reference maps in which we can go back. These are more or less the same maps of the time that he would have been looking at and gauging where he is going. So here's the village of Aldermaston. And somewhere in there is the canal, because we went on the canal. I'm not quite sure where it is, though. Sometimes it's written in blue and sometimes it isn't, but anyway, it's somewhere there, and that's where he is. So let's carry on reading our book. Aldermaston, he says, is a sleepy spot. Even the streams there hardly seem to have the energy to move along. It is a village out of any great road, it says here. Can you drop the map links into the chat again? Yes, of course, I will do that. Let's just copy that. Copy, and this is the Google one. We'll paste that into the chat, and if you're watching after the event, I do believe the chat is available. I never quite remember now. Oops, let's do that. Post the second one, and then you can follow along with us. There we go. So there we are. There are the map links. Right, so as he says, it is a village out of any road, as Clarendon describes it in his Histories of the Rebellion. Possibly the only time it has awakened out of its sleepiness was when the royal forces under Colonel Gage had a stiff and successful fight with the parliamentarians there, when the former were on their way to convey sorely needed supplies to Basing House. This daring gash of Gage's from Oxford to Basing successfully carried out through the country, swarming with the enemy, was a noteworthy exploit. And now last time, if you remember, we looked at where Basing Castle or Basing House was, and we saw the pictures from the English Civil War, which is this particular time. The lovely Julia found it. I don't know if she can find it again and stick it in the chat for you. Anyway, he achieved the seemingly impossible because the enemy deemed the deed impossible and were not sufficiently on the alert. The man who greatly dares often wins. Gage, with much astuteness, boldly declared his intention of relieving Basing House, even to sending the trustworthy messengers before him with the instructions to provide provisions and accommodation for his troops at certain places on the line of the march, all of which was done and naturally came to the ears of the parliamentarians, as Gage intended it would. Then Gage quickly and quietly did what he boldly proclaimed he would do, but he went another way. The only trouble was with a small party of the Cromwellians at Aldermaston, but the latter, being both weak in numbers and unprepared, they were easily overcome. A few miles beyond so that's that story. Anyway, he carries on, James John Hissey carries on. He says, a few miles beyond Aldermaston found us on the main road and Bath Road, a fine open road, but not an interesting one, at least at the point we emerged it. Of necessity, we followed this a mile or two when observing the initial looking or the inviting-looking by-road with the signpost at the corner having Pangbourne thereon. So we promptly turned up it, as to go forward would have brought us to Reading, and large towns are carefully avoided as far as possible. Pangbourne, a well-known spot, was preferable to Reading, and I don't blame him. We've been to Pangbourne, the lovely Julia and I have been through there. It's very lovely. At any rate, Pangbourne was in the country and picturesque, and Reading was neither. Our lane, for a time, proved to be uninterestingly straight. I never knew a line go so straight so far before, but it was tree-shaded and very pleasant notwithstanding. At last, just beyond the first bend of the lane, the little hamlet of Tidmarsh was revealed to us. We might have passed it unheeded by, as we passed many other pretty hamlet that day, had we not chanced to espy an artist there sitting with his easel in front of him, busily painting the old weather-beaten watermill. For a full-flowing stream ran alongside our road, gurgling companionly as it glided on, and this drove the big mill wheel. Now that's at Tidmarsh. It's just worth having a quick stop. I like to stop and see if we can see some of the views there. So let us stop and see if we can find on the map. That's where we are. Now, he said he went north. Now, I don't know where Pangbourne is. And I'm just having a look here to see if we can see. We got various places here. Mitcham. Where is Reading? Reading must be marked on here somewhere. I'm not quite sure where Pangbourne is in relation, but it must be north. He didn't go that far, he seems. So the best thing to do is to have a look on Google Maps. See, look, there's an old mill. But we're still, that's Aldermaston. Oh, there's Aldermaston. So we're still in Aldermaston there. So we need to come out of here. I think it's north of the M4, isn't it? Which wouldn't have been there in those days. There's Pangbourne. So it looks like he went on this straight road here. Can you see that? Straight road there, I reckon. So where is... I'm just trying to find where Aldermaston is now. I've lost Aldermaston after all this. I've lost myself. But anyway, there's Tidmarsh. So if we go back to this one, and again, this is not so easy to see when it's this big. I don't know what that town is. Oh, there's Reading. Okay, Reading. So he doesn't want to go to Reading, but I think Pangbourne must be up here somewhere. But what I'm trying to do... But I'm going to cheat now. I'm going to put it in here, because otherwise we end up forever. Tidmarsh. Here we go, Tidmarsh. Let's get rid of that. And the big straight road must be this road here that he has come into. And then here he is coming into Tidmarsh. And he talks about a mill, doesn't he, as he comes in. Now, I'm trying to see where the river is. One of these maps, let's just have a look at this. That's the 6-incher. Let's just have another look. Is that one any good? That's a little bit later, I think. When is that? That is 1913. One of them does sort of indicate the blue. I just can't remember. Hang on a minute. There's a drop-down menu here. Here we go. Hills outline, 1940s. It's usually the 6-inch or the 25-inch. Or maybe it's the 1-inch. No, that's hills. That's no good. See, I'm sorry. I'm mucking about now too much. Let's go back to where we were. I think that's 1914. Here we are. 25-inch. Can you see that all right? Is that clear enough? So I don't know where the stream is. Let's have a look here. Pangbourne. Mill Lane. So let's go and have a look at the mill. It must be on that road there. So we'll come down. What we've got there, a nice little, the Greyhound pub. Where's the mill? Oops, is this it? The mill here? So I do like to, that's down Mill Lane, but I can't see the mill. Maybe it's further down. And let's see if we can go up. Mill Lane, Mill Lane. Where's the river? Strolling down here. Mill Lane. Keeper's Cottage. But where is the mill? I feel like we're in a different place now. Can't see a river at all. Hang on, let's go back to the map. So, if the mill is anywhere, it's surely got to be here. And there, look, there is a mill stone. So this would be the mill. Let's see if we can get a better view of the mill. There's the, is that the race stream? So that's where he is. That must be where he's looking at. So, okay, cool. So it's a nice old brick building, which is great. Julia says, right down from Pangbourne was Aldermaston. All right, thank you, Julia. So anyway, the sight of the artist and the quaint old mill caused us to promptly pull up. Naturally, it was a picturesque spot, or the artist would not have been there. A landscape painter's business is to search out beauty spots. So we wandered down to the mill, and after exchanging greetings with the artist, who kindly showed us his drawing, we exchanged conversation. I think he was rather glad to have a chat with a stranger, for an outdoor artist, in spite of the interest of his work, and unless he paints in company, is apt at times to feel a little lonely. At least an artist not unknown to fame once told me, and told me that when he felt lonely, his work suffered, unless it were of a gloomy nature, such as a solitary mountain peak, or pass, or a deserted moorland. To ensure success, he said, your spirit must be attuned to the spirit of the landscape. Oh. Time passes quickly in pleasant places and in pleasant company. We must have spent over an hour or more at Tidmarsh wandering about the fresh green meadow above the mill and along the footpath beside the brimming stream, sketching and photographing this choice bit. And that, as it took, this stream and this and that, whatever, as it took romance in its name. Now, the elephant has not a romantic sound to it and carries no association with it. It is not even a picturesque animal to put on a signboard. I don't know why he's got elephant in mind. I just can't quite work that bit out. Give me a bold red lion ramp. Have I missed a page or something? 141. Oh yes, I think I have. That's yes, I apologise. I thought that sounded a bit weird. Yes, so we spent about an hour along the sketching and photographing this choice bit and that, as it took our fancy. That's better. We're now making sense again. Chatting first to the artist and then to the good-natured miller, who kindly made us free of his property. I've always found millers to be genial fellows, and so am fond of them. Yet never have I come across a surly miller, and many a merry one I have met. There must surely be some reason for this. Perhaps the hum of the mill is cheering and soothing to the soul. It is to mine, I know. Possibly a miller's business is a steady one and fairly free from care, and thus he leads an easy, tranquil life, so that the while the world smiles on him, and he is on the world in turn. Oh, right. He was a jolly miller once. There was a jolly miller once who lived on the River Dee. He worked and sung from morn till night, no lark more blithe than he, sings the poet. And when I come to think of it, more than once, when coming unexpectedly upon a miller, I have found him humming a merry tune to the music of his whirling wheels. And a man who sings at his work is the man for me. Did not Henry VIII once knight a worthy miller, because he was such a jolly good fellow, and settle 1,000 marks a year upon him? Well, I don't know, did he? Or is this but a pleasant fiction? It is the miller of Mansfield that I have in mind. Oh, well, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Anyway, but for a warning note of thunder, I know not how long we might have lingered at this restful spot, solitary enough when the miller had gone inside his mill and the artist was out of sight. lulled to a laziness by the dreamy droning of the distant mill, for we had wandered some way from it, lulled also by the quiet wash of the brook, by the murmuring of the wind amongst the trees and rushes, and by the twittering of the songs of many birds. Country sounds are as refreshing to the ear as country scenes are to the eye. To me, it is a joy upon a summer's day to lie down at full length upon some grassy bank with closed eyes, so that the scene of hearing may not be disturbed, just to listen to nature's soft, reposeful melodies. Sweet 'tis to wander through this English land, by mead and orchard copse, and old world grange lulled by the song, o' brook and bird and bee. Well, that didn't rhyme or scan, did it? Following the thunder came the rain. Then we hurried off to the car, put up the hood in record time and sped away, ignoring totally the speed limit. Ooh, somebody should go back and capture him. Oh no, he's no longer with us, which is a bit of a shame. Julia says the right move link is apparently the mill in question. The right move link. Oh, is it? Am I looking at the wrong mill? Let's have a quick look then. Maybe I have been looking at the wrong mill. Oh, this is a different looking mill. Here we go. Let's have a little glance at that. Look at that. Which is now a home. Oh, what a shame. Oh, I see. There, that must be the brick building. And that's the house. Let's go back to our view here. Is it down here then? Oh, yes, there it is. That is it on the edge. Look at that. Marvellous. But it's now a home, no longer a mill, none of the stuff in it. What a, I mean, it's a lovely home and everything for somebody, but all the gear has gone. I mean, it's beautiful, look at that. You'd love to live in something like that, wouldn't you? But I dare say it's a lot of money. Oh yes, 1,350,000. How the other half live. Oh, blimey. Anyway, there they go in record time. Now the rain came down in earnest. The thunder rolled loud and long, the lightning flashed, and by the time we reached Pangbourne, it was as though a second deluge was in progress. So we pulled up at the first inn we came to, which proved to be the Elephant. Ah, hence the Elephant. Let's go to Pangbourne then and have a quick look in Pangbourne and see what it looks like. Hang on a minute, we'll come back and we'll go into Pangbourne. I'm going to type this in, Pangbourne, the Elephant, and see if it's still there. Oh, here it is. Look at that. Let's go and have a quick gander from the street view at the Elephant. And there it is. The Elephant Hotel. And, oh, there is an elephant. Look at that. There is an elephant made out of all sorts of bits and bobs. So let's see what he says about the elephant then. I'm familiar with the Elephant and Castle in London, but not so much the elephant. A new, strange title to me, and not nearly so attractive as the good old-fashioned and familiar ones, the red or white lion, the white hart, the crown, the king's head, and others that have lingered long, still flourishing in the land, and have a pleasant ring about them. Sometimes there is romance in a name. Now, the elephant has not a romantic sound to me, and it carries no associations with it. It's not even a picturesque animal to put on a signboard. Give me a bold red lion, rampant, as fierce of countenance as the village painter can make him. And if rejoicing in a fresh coat of brilliant vermilion, so much the better. That is a sign worth hanging up and looking at. You can make something of a fierce lion, but of a clumsy elephant? What? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think an elephant can look quite nice. There it is. Look at that. And it's right next to Pangbourne Village Hall. And there's a sort of look at the village as we can see it. And there he must have pulled up at the elephant. And there it is. So on our other map... Oh, hang on, that's back to me, isn't it? That's back to that. Let's go into our other map here. presumably that's Tidmarsh. Pangbourne must be up here, I'm assuming. And I wonder where the elephant was on this map. I don't know why all these little things keep popping up. He wouldn't have been very happy because, as we can see, there's the George Hotel, look. There is the railway. He doesn't like the railway. Is it listed in here, the elephant? I mean, clearly it was around. I'm just trying to work out where it would be. So let's go back to this map. The elephant is here. Right, so if that's the railway, let's just straighten this up this way. There's the elephant, there's the railway. 2 roads crossing, left-hand road coming down to the High Street. So let's have a look. So down to the High Street, public house, that must be it. In front of the church, is that correct? Let's just have a quick look. Is that the church? That's the elephant. There's the graveyard. There's the church. Excellent, right, okay. So we can see how it was. But there's the George Hotel. I wonder if that was even nicer. We will never know. Unless, of course, he decides to go there. It was now late afternoon, and though we had not travelled far that day, so late we had started forth, we had dallied here and there on the way. That evening was approaching. Therefore, as the storm seemed to settle down to a long innings, we inquired if we could get a room for the night. "You can have a dozen," exclaimed the landlord. "You are the only guests. The rain has driven all our visitors away. Pangbourne's a fair-weather place." So, beneath the sign of the Elephant, we slept that night, and slept soundly. The inn proved comfortable, mine host obliging, the cooking good. We even discovered a garden at the rear, and a summer-house therein. Only the lawn was rain-soaked. The inn deserved a better title. "I'm glad you had a very nice time. Thank you so much for coming. It's been an absolute pleasant." "Well, thank you. We must get on our way now." "Oh, yes, you must indeed, you must. What a lovely-looking vehicle you've got there." "Yes, thank you. We must go now." Yes, please go. Don't dilly-dally. Are those pneumatic tyres?" "Yes, they are. But we've got to go now. We've got things to do." "Oh, I'm sure you have." Anyway, I'm sure the conversation probably went along something like that. But we haven't got that far yet to the following day. During the evening, I found my way to the smoke room, where a blazing fire was. You kind of get the impression the smoke room with a blazing fire would have been a fog, but I don't think it's that kind of smoke. There I discovered, seated solitary, my friend the artist, smoking, with a glass of toddy close beside him on the table. It's just to keep the cold away, mate," he explained. It appeared, after waiting till he was tired of waiting, that he had faced the storm and tramped the 2 miles from Tidmarsh with such protection as the wind-blown mackintosh he wore afforded. I'm used to this sort of thing," he said. I used to paint a lot in Wales, and it can rain there when in the mood. Many a day I've been wet through, but never a bit worse for it. Oh, no, never, he said. Then I remembered that I too, long years ago, had spent a month in North Wales. "Had you really? It does rain up there." "Yes, I'm just narrating now, so you can be quiet for a moment." "Oh, I'll just do a bit of sketching then, I suppose." "Yes, you do that whilst I find my space." Anyway, I remembered that I spent a month in Wales sketching, staying at a little unpretentious inn, then the headquarters of a small band of enthusiastic artists. And I recalled the jovial evenings I spent there in an atmosphere of good fellowship and tobacco smoke, the enlightening talk we indulged in about art, and the jokes that we cracked. A right merry crew we were. May I never fall into worse company. So I mentioned the names and asked my friend if he'd ever met them. He knew them all well, for he too was in Wales at work about that time. Oh, yes, I know them. Let me see," he exclaimed. "Why, yes, let me think. That must have been over 20 years ago. Yes, it was. Whew! Alas, how that time should fly so," he said. "Where are they now, and how are they getting on?" I said in the same voice that he had, which was a mistake, really, because there should have been some speech marks at the end of that sentence, so I knew that there was a different person speaking. But there you go. Where are they now, I said, and how are they getting on? Then I went over their names again. To the first on the list came the laconic rejoinder, "Oh, yes, well, he's dead." To the second, "Yes, he's dead too." The third had gone to the great majority, I learnt. The fourth had drunk himself into a lunatic asylum. The fifth had disappeared. No one knew where he was. "And you're alive to tell the tale," I remarked. "Yes, but I should not be alive if I had remained in Wales," came the reply. He said, "It's all very well in the summertime, if you sell any pictures. It's the winter that does for one there, when it rains for weeks on end. Then you can't paint. There's no amusement in it. It is not over cheerful, sitting in a tiny cottage with a window about the size of a pocket handkerchief, and a poor painter cannot afford better quarters. So for the sake of company, he goes to the inn. There's a little else to do than watch the rain, and when at the inn, he drives dullness away with a glass or two, and then he takes to drinking more or less the whole day, and then he disappears from the scene. That's a true story. Wales is in the summer is glorious, but God help the poor artist who have to spend his days in the winter. I come south in time, and now I paint on the river here or in Devon, so that I am alive." And as far as my memory serves, I have repeated our conversation without an altered word, which is a remarkable thing, seeing as there was a lot of pauses and stutters in that. Then my artist friend ordered another glass of toddy. "It's purely just to make sure that I don't catch cold." And he filled his pipe for the fourth time. This weather reminds me of Wales," he said. "But to return to a more cheerful subject, have you ever heard the stock riddle here? Why is the river at Pangbourne like a drover's dog?" I gave up. Not because I was good at riddles. And the answer was, well, because it runs between Oxon and Berks, or Barks. After that, I thought it was time for bed. Oh, yes. Why is the river at Pangbourne like a drover's dog? Because it runs between Oxon and Berks. There we go. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. How long have we been doing? 27 minutes. Is there nobody else watching other than the lovely Julia? And if there is, please let me know. There's one concurrent viewer now, apparently. So it's all very exciting, isn't it? I think we might have had 8 views, but there we are. Warning: the stream is perilously loose. As indeed is this. We're getting on to Chapter 8, and I'll do a little bit from Chapter 8, and we'll see how we go. We're still in Pangbourne, and we're still here at the Elephant and Wisnose. Just the Elephant. There it is. And I'm quite curious to see if the George Hotel... Where is the George? Has it been made where... Oh, there's the George. Let's just have a quick look at the George. Where could he have stayed instead if he had decided? He could have stayed here, which is very nice looking, somewhat larger inn. But just as an interesting feature, if you come down here, not there, Julia will remember we went into this co-op where they've got 1 million cameras, and we filmed in that co-op when we had gone up to Sir Julian Rose's property. We crossed the road here, we walked down here past that van, although that van wasn't there, and we went in there, and then we went up this road here, through the bridge, which I remember is there. Oh, there it is. Through that bridge, and I believe, I can't remember if it's before or after, is a toll bridge. Now, I'm interested to know if our chappie is going to go into that. Let's have a look. Chapter 8. My chat with the artist had one effect upon the fortunes of our tour. It set me thinking about North Wales, that delightful land of mountains, wooded glens and rocky rivers, and I felt a sudden longing to see it again. We had not been there for years, for the familiar and the famous shrines, before which the tipper bows his head, have no speckle We had not been there for years, he says, rereading that, for the familiar and famous shrines before which the tripper bows his head have no special allurements for us. Fame is a fatal gift when beautiful scenery is concerned. It brings the railway along lonely and lovely valleys and even up the mountains. It brings the big and assertive hotel, the modern builder with his ugly lodging houses, the thronged charabanc, the fashionable tourist and the noisy tripper, and from these it is hard to escape. The artist and angler do not count, for they are quiet and picturesque beings, in harmony with their surroundings, and moreover pleasant company both at the inn and on the way. Now the mountains demand solitude, not a crowd, least of all noisy something, least of all a noisy crowd, indeed. But I remembered it was June, and the tourist season had not yet begun. There would be ample room for us at the inn, and above all we should be able to enjoy the scenery undisturbed by the professional sightseer. Hitherto we had only visited North Wales at the height of the holiday season. Out of it the land had a new meaning to us, and a land of old romance it still was. Only a few happy fishermen were there, and a stray traveller or two, but I am a little previous. So that's interesting. So bear in mind, this is 100 years ago, over 100 years ago, and he's talking about, the amount of sightseers and things. I said to my wife, coming fresh from my chat with the artist, I've got an idea. Long years ago, we went sketching in North Wales. That was in August, when the country was overrun with tourists. I know we were but tourists too, but no matter. What do you say about going there again in absence of so much other company? Agreed, responded she, after a moment's consideration. We may as well go there as anywhere else. Besides, I know when you've got an idea in your head you mean to carry it out. A wife is but clay in the hands of her husband, she said. A good wife, I added. You have forgotten the needful adjective. I prided myself with my diplomatic rejoinder. So to Wales it was we settled to go. We would not trouble as to the route there, but decided simply to drive in a northwesterly direction, taking the lane and the byway or the high road as best served our purpose. Our course might not be very direct, but so long as we eventually arrived where we wished, the directness or indirectness of our way troubled us not. Now, it's interesting because he didn't have a plan before, and he said how marvellous it was not to have a plan. Now that he's got a plan, he's saying how marvellous it is to have a plan. But we'll see. The next morning was gloriously fine. The storm had spent itself and left us a cloudless sky, deeply blue above, and a refreshed and rain-washed world below. Like a pebble which, when wet, shows all its many tints, unrevealed when dry. So the moist-laden landscape abounded in colour, and so pure and clear was the atmosphere that the faraway hills seemed almost close at hand. Sharply silhouetted against the skyline as they were, the distance was deceptive, looking miles nearer than usual. I have noticed this deception of distance in the thin atmosphere of California, where, to my unaccustomed eyes, a mountain peak, looking but an easy day's stage away, took me 3 honest days hard riding to reach it. The moist air of England lends a charm of mystery to the horizon, and mystery makes things seem remote. Still, you know the horizon is gettable during daylight in a motor car. It cannot evade you. To the eye, the horizon is far off. It is space expressing, but you realize that you can conquer it. You are the master of the distance. It is not the master of you. Someone, somewhere, says who or where, and I cannot remember which, that it takes 3 foul days to breed one good England. But when the good one does come, so perfect is it that the price is well worth paying. That day was one of the perfect ones. Had we the making of it, we could not have done better. Like the famous Samuel Pepys of diary renown, we awoke betimes to find the sunshine streaming through our windows, the birds without having apparently already breakfast on the proverbial early worm, hard lines on the worm for early rising, and were chanting their cheerful matins. The morning too ideal to be cooped up within walls any longer than needed for breakfast, so we packed our belongings previous to the depart. They're just about to head off. Lucky them, eh? And I'm just wondering whether I should be heading off in a second. We took to the road leading straight from our inn without inquiring where it went, and found ourselves following the course of the river, driving a northwesterly direction just as we desired. So we came to Streatley, much above the River Men. But we felt in a roving mood that morning and not inclined to linger in well-known spots, however attractive those spots might be. And after Streatley, we struck upon open, downlight country, a country of wide views and bracing breezes. All round us stretched a spacious landscape with no worrying detail to disturb its breadth, a bleak and undulating grassy upland with a circling distance, that morning beautifully blue. So they didn't have the M4 to sort of head on, or the M40, which would have been the appropriate road, I suppose, these days, if you just wanted to get to North Wales as fairly quickly. There is a certain pace at which the country can be best enjoyed, and that pace depends upon the scenery. To loiter on a lonely moorland, where 1 mile is much like another, and with a road stretching far ahead in dull monotony, where all is revealed and nothing uncertain, is apt to cause weariness. Then speed and the rush of the wind in one's face is inspiring, a tonic for body and mind. So over that open upland we sped along, fresh horizons ever opening up, hills beyond hills, rolling in the blue. At Blueberry, we discovered, Blueberry, B-L-E-W, Bury, we discovered a pretty and sequestered village with a fine old church. Our artist had spoken to us of the charms of Blueberry, of its thatched cottages, its orchards, its waterways. It looked like a village that had seen better days, but whose mild prosperity had departed, probably never to return again. After the invention of the railway, when the coaches, post-chaises and goods wagons were driven off the road, Blueberry had to depend upon its own resourcefulness. It now grows watercress for the London market, and excellent watercress too, but it's not very exciting or a profitable industry. Let us see if we can find Blueberry on the map. So here we are. We were leaving this place. He didn't go that way in the end. Presumably he went somewhere up that way. So let us get back onto the road, and out of there come back onto this map, and he goes along the river, he said, to Streatley. So let's see if we can find Streatley first. So there's Streatley, and then he goes up somewhere towards Blueberry, but where the hell that is I do not know. So let us Didcot. Let's see if we can find Blueberry. Adjacent to the A34, it seems. So BLE do. There we are. Oh, so it is near Didcot. There we go. He wouldn't have seen the big towers that have since come and gone, I suppose, at Didcot. So where's Didcot then? Didcot is... Blueberry's here. Lost Didcot. Abingdon. Didcot must be round here somewhere. Anyway, let's go and have a look at Blueberry. Let's have a look at it now. There's the church. We'll go to the church first, because that will give us an indication of what the place looks like. There's the church. And it does look quite nice. Not so much that house as such. Come down here. He talked about thatched cottages, didn't he? That's nice. Look at that. Reasonable. Telephone box. Everything you could possibly want. And I saw just now something to the Red Lion. Blueberry. South Street. Where is this? Is that the Red Lion pub? We'll have a quick look in there. That is that is called Blueberry Pub, which is interesting how they spelt that, somewhat different. But there are some old. So these houses, I wonder if they were thatched when he went there 100 years ago, and they've lost their thatch. Look, that one's empty. Is that one empty next to it as well? Oh no, they're just shutters. And so they grow watercress there. There must be water then, blueberry. And I wonder if the watercress is in here. Oxfordshire Wild Rescue. Trying to find where there's water. Let's come back to the map. Oh yes, you see, look. I wonder if they still do it then, watercress. There's plenty of water around that neck of the woods. And there's the Red Lion. He doesn't mention it. I just thought it'd be interesting to have a quick gander. Interesting little pub. And there, finally, there is a thatched cottage. Look at that. There we go. Look at that lovely timber frame cottage. Beautiful. And another one beyond, it looks like. So maybe he drove down this road. Look at that. That's amazing, isn't it? And here's another. Oh, no, not so much. But a timber framed, nonetheless, with tiles and what have you. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Oh, there. Isn't that beautiful? Perfect. Okay, so we've managed to see that. And then on this map, we'll just bung it. I'll just type it in quickly. Blueberry. So this is what it would have looked like. Get rid of these bloody things. Church and what have you. Presumably we're down here somewhere, I think. But you can see all these trees and things. People, very whatever. And then up here must be where the Blueberry Mill. I'm just wondering if any of this is going to mention the watercress. But anyway, so there's a bit of that for us. Marvellous. Okay, let's just do a little bit more and then we'll finish. If you're watching, don't forget to say hello in the chat just to know that somebody's out there. So where are we? Yes, that morning was beautifully blue, blah, 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 da-da-di-da, di-diddly-do, di-diddly-dum. In an age when the ugly trail of the modern builder is over the land, such primitive and picturesque spots such as Blueberry have a doubly pleasant look. The wealthy man adorns the walls of his modern mansion with paintings of such peaceful and pretty villages, though he seldom troubles to go in search of the originals. Few people realise beauty till an artist has translated it for them. A picture by Turner or David Cox aroused their enthusiasm, but the fount from which these artists drew their inspiration leaves them strangely cold. Beautiful pictures are prized possessions. They are the magicians of our walls that transport us to beautiful scenes, to quiet hamlets and sleepy hollows without the trouble of travel, without even the trouble of thinking much. The curfew bell, we were told, is still rung at Blueberry, and long may it continue to be rung, for an old custom once abolished is generally abolished forever. Many years ago, a curfew bell is a bell, presumably, that rings at a certain time, says everybody should be back in their houses. I'm not sure it's the sort of time of bell I would improve of, really, because that's actually, that's a dictatorial system, is it not? Somebody saying, oh, curfew, get inside. Well, who's for you to tell me to get inside, you nana? Anyway, many years ago it is recorded that one bleak winter's night a solitary horseman lost himself in a snowstorm while traversing the dreary downs above the village, and was nearly frozen to death, but he was guided to Blueberry and safely by the sound of the curfew bell. So it has not been rung there altogether in vain. According to ancient tradition, the ringing of the curfew gave the time when ghosts might walk the earth, until the first cock-crow of the following morning came. A bit curious of information that I picked up along the road. Curious bit of information. In the past days, when men oftentimes journeyed on horseback, at many lonely spots bells were not infrequently rung on foggy nights for the benefit of belated travellers, and here and there on wide open heaths and desolate moors lighted beacons were employed to guide the wayfarer on his way. At the remote old-world Yorkshire village of Bainsbridge in Wensleydale, a horn was blown. I believe, indeed, that it is still blown. It certainly was until quite recently. At 10 o'clock every night, from the feast of the Holy Rood to Shrove Tide, for the guidance of lost travellers in the wild and wooded country around, a large cow horn being employed. Can you imagine? I'm sure they don't do it now. You know, nobody would hear it when they've got their stereos up and they're driving along in their EV cars. At the next junction, turn left, with their sat-nav trying to guide them away from the small villages and keep them on the modern roads. Anyway, in the medieval times, people appeared mostly to have used saints' days and feasts and festivals of the church as dates. I wonder how many people today could fix the date of the Feast of the Holy Rood. When touring in Lincolnshire, we had Dunstan Pillar pointed out to us, a tall structure visible from far away. This was originally built to serve as a land lighthouse, and a light was kept burning there all night as a beacon to travellers over the extensive heath around. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Now we have decent, if somewhat intricate roads, though often we complain about them. The horseman with packs to carry his luggage is never or very rarely met with. Yet it is a form of touring that has its advantages, for the horseman is not confined to the road. Well, some might say then he's trespassing. Some friends of mine made up a party and travelled about England in this manner, and they averred that the experiment was a great success. But there is always some risk of a horse going lame. Truly, a motor car can break down, but provided the owner takes the trouble to understand his engine, a breakdown may generally be set right, without greater inconvenience than a little delay. At least, that is to my experience after several years of motoring and many hundreds of miles of motor touring. We're going to continue this in another episode. I'm coming to the end now of this episode. I think that is quite sufficient reading for one day. Thank you so much for joining me. We will leave Blueberry to all those people who enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed our little excavation. Not excavation, X something. I can't think of the word. What is it when you go on it with an X in it? You travel. Excursion. Thank you very much. There we are, the brain working. I hope you enjoyed our little excursion into a bit of history. Over 100 years ago, around about 1909, when the author was writing and conveying to us in his conveyance his journey around where he happens to be in Berkshire, or at least left Berkshire. So there we go. Thank you for watching. I'll be back, don't know when, next time round, with the next exciting instalment of The Charm of the Road by James John Hissey. Until then, take care, look after yourself. Thanks for popping in. Ta-ta.